Hello everyone, it's Ashley at the Silver Bay Public Library, and I am back once again for a story time for you guys to enjoy. However, this is going to be our last one, as this is the last week and the end of the summer reading program. I hope you all enjoyed the fun stories that I've shared with you so far, and I hope you'll enjoy the ones that I will be sharing with you today. Now, I have no theme for today, technically speaking. I've said before this week's theme was transportation, but I wanted to end with just some wacky stories that I thought you guys would enjoy. And yeah, so I have nothing much else to say, so I guess we'll just dive right in. Our first story is going to be Snow Leopard, Ghost of the Mountains by Justin Anderson and illustrated by Patrick Benson. And if you've watched the last few videos, you'll probably have seen the cover of this book, though I haven't had a chance to actually get reading it for you guys yet. So, we'll read it today. The people who live among the Himalayan mountains tell stories of a mysterious animal they call the Grey Ghost. They say that if you see one, you'll be so happy and excited, you'll feel as if your soul is flying. But this wondrous animal is incredibly rare and hard to find, so I'll be lucky if I spot one on my trek. My guide and I leave the village behind and travel together up to the mountains. And you can see them here. As we climb, one slow step and then another, the slope gets steeper. Suddenly, just in front of us, we see tracks in the snow. A line of paw prints that comes from high up on the ridge. Something moves in the rocks ahead. My hands start to tremble, my heart is beating fast, but I must remain silent and still. There, not far away, is a snow leopard. Her coat is pale gold and silver gray with black rosettes. It's easy to lose sight of her among the rocks. The rosettes look like the shadows under stones and boulders, and her pale belly reflects the color of the ground, breaking up her outline and allowing her to disappear into the landscape. Snow leopards can wander over an area of up to almost 400 square miles. So they do a lot of walking, essentially, so it's hard to find them. Snow leopard licks her paws. They're huge. It's as if she is wearing shoes that are much too big. They help her spread her weight and travel across the deepest snow without sinking. In the mountains, the weather can change in an instant. As the cold wind blows and fresh snow begins to fall, the leopard curls up, wraps her tail around her paws like a cozy scarf. She buries her nose between her tail's thick, spotted fur. As the storm passes, the snow leopard shakes off the snow, stretches, and yawns. We watch quietly as she stops at an overhanging rock. She rubs against it with her cheek, turns her back, lifts her tail, and squirts pee over the rock. It's a message for other cats to sniff out. This is how snow leopards stay in touch across the vastness of the mountains without meeting one another. That's a weird way to communicate, but oh well. A clatter of hooves and the rattle of sliding rocks breaks the silence. Not all mountain animals are as quiet as the snow leopard. 6 ibex are crossing the slope below. The snow leopard has spotted them and she's hungry. She sneaks in closer. With her camouflage coat, she seems to melt into the mountainside. And ibex are blue sheep. Or no, sorry. I don't actually know what ibex are. Maybe you guys should go look it up. The muscles in her shoulders tense. She's ready to strike. But something startles the ibex. They whistle in alarm and run away fast. The rocks they send tumbling sound like rain. There is a second snow leopard. It's her cub. The cub is almost as big as her mother, but she still has a lot to learn about keeping quiet when her mom is hunting. The cub was born 2 years ago, blind and helpless in a secret mountain cave that her mother had lined with warm fur from her own coat. At 7 days old, the cub opened her big blue eyes for the first time. She weighed less than a can of beans, but grew fast on her mother's milk. At 2 months old, the cub tasted her first meat, and a month later she was ready to leave the cave. Since then, she has followed her mother everywhere, learning how to survive, though soon she'll have to make her way into the mountains. Make her own way. But for now, they snuggle up closely, nuzzling each other. The cub yawns and they begin to doze, soaking up what little warmth there is from the sun. Their tails curl together as if they're holding hands. I can't believe my eyes. I'm watching 2 snow leopards. That is very lucky indeed. As the sun starts to sink, the leopards wake and slowly climb the mountain higher and higher beyond where we can hope to follow. For a second, I think they have disappeared, and then I see a tiny figure right on the summit. It's the mother leopard. She begins to sing, her long, haunting yowl echoing around the mountain before fading on the wind. And then she is gone. The gray ghost had vanished, swallowed up by silence. And that is the end of Snow Leopard Goes to the Mountains. They're such beautiful creatures, don't you think? Though don't try petting one. I know they look soft, but they don't want to be petted. Our next book is going to be How to Catch a Monster by Adam Wallace and Andy Elkerton. Are you guys afraid of monsters? I think everyone's a little afraid of monsters. School is done. I'm heading home. It was such an awesome day. I got the role of Ninja Master in this year's school play. So now I'm feeling brave and strong, and full of courage too. But if I'm going to be a hero, then there's one thing left to do. See, there's a monster in my closet, with claws and teeth and hair, and tonight I'm going to scare him. He lives just right through there. I spot my monster right away. He's practicing his roar. He almost scares me half to death. But I won't be scared anymore. I reach into my bag of tricks and pull out my first trap. I'll catch my monster right away. It'll be a snap. Okay, he's stronger than I thought, but I'm not finished yet. I'll catch him in my super sticky ninja nabbing net. He just escaped again, but my next trap will not miss. I'll give him every trick I've got. He won't get out of this. I stare at him and he stares back. His monster eyes look sad. I'm sorry, friend, I really am. No, please, just don't be mad. I never meant to scare you. I did it by mistake. It's hard to play when you're asleep. I want you wide awake. So then I stop my ninja bot and he pulls the bars apart. I shake his hand and then he smiles. And rips a massive fart. Oh no. That's how we say hello, my friend. We do it all the time. Just take a whiff. You'll see it smells like strawberries and lime. And then he takes me to his house, which seems a little weird. He lets me meet his mom and dad. Is this the creature that I feared? Baby monster down here. We play for hours and have such fun and eat volcano pie. And when he throws me in the air, he throws me really high. Then at last, it's time for bed. He helps me brush my teeth, but he squeezes all my toothpaste out, and he's strong. He's strong beyond belief. The night is done and Mom comes in and tucks me nice and tight. I'm glad I'm feeling safe and sound. It's time to say goodnight. Good night, says the monster from the closet. Yeah. And that is the end of that story. I'm never quite sure when these stories end, which is why I always check the back page, just in case. You never want to miss a good story. But that is how you catch a monster. And he wasn't even really a monster in the first place. He just wanted to play. He didn't mean to scare the little boy. Or girl. Well, he didn't want me to scare the child. But our next book also is going to be kind of funny. It's called The Little Guys by Vera Broskol. Yep. So The Little Guys. They look all like little acorns, but I don't know what they are. You were looking at the strongest guys in the whole forest. Down here. On this island. I don't see anything there. We are the little guys. Yes, we're small, but there are a lot of us. Together we are strong, and we can get all that we need. We can cross deep water where you can't see the bottom. Off to find breakfast for the little guys. We never get lost in the big dark forest. Nothing to fear for the little guys. We can find enough food for all of us. A piece of cake for the little guys. We can lift things that weigh more than we do. no sweat for the little guys. They lifted up a log, and some squirrels fell out. We can climb the tallest tree there is. Easy peasy for the little guys. They can dig through anything that stands in their way. Nothing stops the little guys. We can beat up the biggest animal we find. Don't mess with the little guys. None for you, all for us. Hand it over to the little guys. That doesn't seem very nice. We're the little guys, yes we are small, but there are lots, of us. Together we are strong, and we have everything? We have everything. They're grabbing a berry out of the bird's mouth. Ah! They go tumbling out of the tree, or out of their pile of food. And splash! We're the little guys. Yes, there are a lot of us. But we are small. We have all we need, and together we are strong. And they realized they probably shouldn't take all the food, and brought some food back to the birds. Yes, so there are a lot of little guys, and it seems they like to get up to some interesting shenanigans, but they're kind of cute though, don't you think? So, our next story is going to be Green Pants by Kenneth Kragle. What's so special about green pants? Jameson only ever wore green pants. When he wore green pants, he could do anything. He could dunk, he could dive, and he could dance. Sometimes people try to get Jameson to wear pants of a different color. But one way or another, Jameson made sure they didn't end up in his closet. Here, he threw them in a tree. One day, Jameson's cousin Armando came by with his fiancée, Jo. Jo had the nicest smile Jameson had ever seen, and her eyes seemed to sparkle like the autumn sun shining upon a running river. "Hey, Jameson, we have a question for you," Armando said. "Would you like to be in our wedding?" Jo asked. "Absolutely," Jameson replied, staring deeply into Jo's bright eyes. Next morning, Jameson's mother said, "You know, being in a wedding is a big deal. There will be a lot of standing." "No problem," said Jameson. "And you'll have to smile nicely for all the photos." "No problem." "And you'll have to use your best manners at dinner." "No problem." "And one more thing," his mother said slowly, you will have to wear a tuxedo." "Okay," Jameson nodded. "No problem." "Jameson, the tuxedo will be black." "What?" Jameson gasped. "Black pants? Black? Are you sure?" "Yes, I'm afraid so." At the tuxedo fitting, Jameson rejected every pair of black pants that he was given to try, but he was quite impressed with how striking his green pants looked with the rest of his tuxedo. His mother, however, remained firm. "If you want to be in the wedding, you'll have to wear black pants." The day of the wedding came, and Jameson still hadn't made up his mind. "I'm sorry, you have to choose," his mom said, but I'm sorry you had to choose, his mom said, "but I'm afraid you must." "But how?" Jameson cried. "It's impossible." But all too soon it was time. "Okay, Jameson," his mother said, moments before the wedding began. "This is it. Have you decided?" "No." "Well, it is a tough decision, but I know you can figure it out." She kissed his forehead and went inside. Jameson sank in despair. But how? How to make such a decision? Just then Jo appeared. Her hair played happily in the sunny breeze. Her eyes shone like the summer stars, and her smile warmed his very soul. "Hey, Jameson, I'm so glad you're here. I'll see you inside." And as quickly as she'd appeared, she was gone. Joe's soft, sweet voice lingered in the air, and in that moment, Jameson's choice became clear. The wedding began, and Jameson appeared, right on cue, looking quite dashing in his tuxedo. During the ceremony, Jameson stood very still. Afterward, he posed for every picture with perfect charm and grace. At dinner, he was pleasant and courteous, and his manners were impeccable. But the moment the dance music began, a pair of black pants fell to the floor. And Jameson danced like no one had ever danced before. And if we look more closely, he did in fact wear the green pants under the black ones. Because he couldn't make a decision. And that was the story of Green Pants. Now, our last book of the day is going to be Clarence, the Copycat, by Patricia Lakin, and pictures by John Manders. I mean, I like cats. Who doesn't? I mean, unless you're allergic. Clarence's mother and father were the best mousers Sam's sandwich shop had ever had. They spent all their time catching mice. Clarence did not. He was a peaceful cat. He couldn't bear to harm another living creature, even one that ate the deli meats and scared the customers. His family tried to change him, but they couldn't, so Sam sent him away. Alone in the world, Clarence stuck to his principles. He would not hurt mice. But everywhere he went, people wanted him to do just that. "Scram, you know, Mouser," yelled Gladys of Forever Flowers. "Scat, cat," shouted Annie of the Quality Diner. "Out, you lazy bum," bellowed Tom of Ye Old General Store. Will I ever find a real home? Clarence wondered sadly. He searched up one street and down another. He sniffed around parking lots and padded along pathways. But he had no luck. Exhausted, he collapsed into a small spot of shade. A man stood in a nearby doorway. "And whose cat are you?" he asked. "My own," Clarence meowed softly. "A stray by the looks of you," the man said. He brushed cracker crumbs from his bushy mustache. Do I need a cat? He wondered. Clarence followed the man into a strange place. Hundreds of books lined the walls of a big room. There were tables and chairs in the middle of the floor, and fluffy cushions laying in a sun-filled window seat. A big machine whirred, lit up, and spat out paper. "Welcome to the Barnstable Library," said the man. "I'm Mr. Spanner." He unwrapped a wedge of cheese and gave it to Clarence, who purred a deep, satisfied purr. This place had warm spots for snoozing and many mountains to climb, but best of all, there were no signs of mice. They were just friendly people who sat and read books or carried them in and out of the library. Clarence watched them come and go each day as he sat near the door, on top of the copy machine. Soon, Mr. Spanner started calling Clarence Copycat. The two of them grew to depend upon each other. Clarence helped Mr. Spanner find misplaced books and pencils. He kept Mr. Spanner company when he had to work late, and Clarence was the most attentive listener during story time. In return, Mr. Spanner kept Clarence well read, well fed, and well petted. Life was good. Life was very good. Until the first bitter cold day of winter. Clarence smelled him. Then he saw him. A mouse darted from under the copy machine. Mr. Spanner saw him too. "Get that mouse," Mr. Spanner called to Clarence. Clarence's heart sank. He didn't know what to do. "Come on, Copycat," cried Mr. Spanner. Clarence didn't move. He saw Mr. Spanner whirling and twirling, creeping and crawling over the library, trying to catch that mouse. "He's gone," Mr. Spanner finally panted. Thank goodness, thought Clarence. That night, Clarence's past lives flashed before his eyes. "Ouch, you lazy bum. Scram, you no mouser," and "Scat, cat," echoed in his ears. This time, I can't let myself be kicked out, he decided. He paced the library floor, trying to think of a plan. As he rounded the corner of Mr. Spanner's desk, he noticed that the cheese container wasn't covered. Of course! Clarence meowed triumphantly. The mouse had been after the cheese. So Clarence bounded onto the desk and ate every last cube and crumb. But the next afternoon, the mouse showed up for story time. The children squealed. "Get that mouse," Mr. Spanner cried. But Clarence didn't move from his cushion. He watched Mr. Spanner and the children whirling and twirling, creeping and crawling around the library trying to catch the mouse. "He's gone," Mr. Spanner finally gasped. Then he wagged his finger at Clarence. "Mice like to eat books, you know." That night, Clarence couldn't sleep. He had to save the library's books and his home. He paced the floor, trying to think of another plan. He was near the copy machine when he saw a tiny hole. "That's it," thought Clarence. "I'll block up every cranny and crack. No mouse will ever be able to crawl in again." Early the next morning, Mr. Spanner opened the library. "How did these books get everywhere except where they belong?" he muttered. He looked at Clarence, who was perched high above in the mystery section. Clarence couldn't explain, and he couldn't stop Mr. Spanner from removing all his book blockades. Later that day, Mr. Spanner had just lifted the lid of the copy machine when he began to shout, "He's back! A copycat! Get him!" The mouse darted behind the library cart. Clarence didn't move. Books blew as Mr. Spanner grabbed the broom. Mr. Spanner twirled. Papers swirled. Mr. Spanner crept and began to lower the broom. "Stop!" Clarence yowled. And without a plan, he jumped. He soared through the air. Mr. Spanner whirled around across the room. Whap! They collided. Splunk! Clarence landed with a big fat belly flop right on the copy machine glass. He tried to get up, but suddenly lights began flashing. Clarence was blinded by them. They went back and forth beneath him. Paper flew out of the machine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sheets. "Gone!" yelled Mr. Spanner. He picked up Clarence. "I'm going," Clarence wailed. Mr. Spanner put him on the floor. He gave Clarence's head a pat. Clarence looked up. Mr. Spanner wasn't mad, and he wasn't kicking him out. But what happened to the mouse? Clarence peeked under the copy machine. He jumped when he saw it staring back at him. It wasn't a mouse. It was a huge black cat with bulging legs, an enormous tummy, and whiskers that stuck out like arrows. It was Clarence. Well, not really Clarence. It was a large copy of Clarence. And it was the scariest cat Clarence had ever seen. It must have been the scariest cat the mouse had ever seen, too, because that mouse didn't come back, ever. Many Saturdays later, after another wonderful story time, Clarence and Mr. Spanner sat nestled together on the window seat. They soaked up the last rays of sun as they ate their cheese and crackers. "I knew I needed a cat like you," said Mr. Spanner. And Clarence the copycat knew it, too. And that's the end of the story. Clarence the copycat. So he wouldn't kill mice, but he found a home anyway. So thank you guys, and how fitting that our last story ended our story time in a library. But thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed these many weeks of listening to the stories and all the information and things like that on our channel. Make sure to keep watching them, going back to the ones you liked the most, that kind of thing. I mean, they'll be on the internet forever now. But thank you for listening. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your summer and a good school year. Or just a good year in general. And yeah, have a wonderful day, and bye-bye.